Hey, welcome to my video. I'm Jennifer Roberts. This is True Divine 4/4, and I'm going to read a story. I'm going to put it in as much of a story form as I possibly can, because I'm being a bit careful since I got my warning. But I'm still not going to stop doing what I do, so we'll see. And this is a story that is a story, and so where other people might get away with, if they're sort of seen as news creators, as in a professional level, it seems that the same rules do not apply. And it seems that most of the news that would be deemed at a professional level aren't going to bother to speak about this too much, and not yet anyway. And so this is a writing on the wall, and I want to read to you some of my notes that I took regarding this story. And so I'm going to have to share the screen to be able to fill in some words. So imagine a story, written around 2015. And imagine this story involving scientists and involving, let's swap my ears because I think I'm clicking and that annoys some people with my feather, my beautiful feather. So, right, okay. So imagine this story being written in 2015 by these very dynamic and very intelligent scientists. Imagine that they're based in China. The beautiful place that is China, with the many beautiful people in it, that has this big baddie of a tyrannical government, not unlike most of them. But anyway, for want of this story, this is the big bad baddie. And so think of a people's army, and think of the CCP style. And so this goes on to describe, this story goes on to describe this. And it says it is a new era of genetic weapons. It goes on to say it can be manipulated, changed into an emerging monster of a and it can be weaponized and unleashed like a magical rain, like a magical storm from up above, in a way that's never been seen before. We'll go on to the story, and it describes things, and it is written, authored by, I might not have the spellings right, so bear with me. And he is you can make that out. And also he is co-authoring with and I know this is annoying, with hold on, and he was the leader of a like fill in the blanks. It's so ridiculous that people are having to go to this. Extent. But there you go. So he led that and reported to the big baddies of this tyrannical government many, many times in 2003. And this is going to become part of the story, an important part. So remember, 2003, this is going down. And so in this story, it was called, now try not to join up so you can make it out. And if you don't want to bear with me, that's absolutely fine. I realize this is a stupid way to have to do it. It's got such a long title, an interesting title. So you can make that out, I hope. Look that up. And so that's the basis of my story today. So we've got, sorry, there's probably a better way to do this, but. So then we've got, it says in this story, following developments in other scientific fields, there have been major advances in delivery of biological agents, like tiny little cute little robots, you know, but not robots, flying through the sky. For example, the newfound ability to freeze dry microorganisms has made it possible to store these Z agents as and aerosolize them during what would be pretendy attacks. It goes on to say, in this story, the bioweapon attacks are best conducted during dawn, dusk, night, or cloudy weather because intensive sunlight can damage the pathogens. In this story, we're to find out that these agents should be used during dry weather because rain or snow can cause aerosol particles to precipitate. It is of course advised stable wind is very desirable so that the aerosol can float into the target area. Notes, attacks could cause the enemy's medical system to collapse. Boris Johnson, been selling off the NHS before even, so you know you've got it primed, haven't you, to fall. Major impacts including enormous burden on healthcare systems, these weapons and their attacks used where they are used have a much prolonged effect than conventional attacks like explosion. It may also carry highly contagious diseases, I don't know whether I write that or not, that can be transmitted through various means. So exciting. These idiots have been doing with the money we give them. Psychological terror. These weapons will not only cause widespread morbidity, mass casualties, but also induce formidable psychological pressures that could affect and combat the effectiveness. Just like other disasters, people will live under fear of attack for a considerable period of time. Has everybody been getting used to fear with this? Has everybody been getting used to living under this fear? You know, you see people with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 things on, priming them. Said at the start of all of this was a conditioning exercise. And they would live under this fear for a period of time, causing brief or lasting psychological impairment amongst some or many. In other words, these are far more useful using these weapons because it causes acute and chronic psychological and mental illnesses such as acute stress reactions. Have we not been seeing in the sleep the acute stress reactions? Have we not been seeing them, you know, fall under this fear? You lose a sense of clarity, you lose a sense of discernment, don't you, when you're in fear? You're only supposed to have that fear factor in order to save your life, save somebody else's life, in order to get out of a bad situation. It's supposed to be very short-lived. We don't do well as humans under the constant of adrenaline, fear. It actually starts to eat away at your brain process. It actually eats, and this is where people with PTSD, it is important that we work to treat them, to help them get and find ways of bringing down that adrenaline, bringing down that induced fear, because they've been under such fearful situations for so long, or they're sort of stuck in a moment where, you know, that bomb's gone off and the brain is stuck in that moment in many minutes of their daily life, and so it eats away at them. So PTSD, things like that, causing then physical ailments, because the body is not made to carry that on a sustained amount of time. It's supposed to be very short-lived and then released. And so in theory, going back to this story, there is a theory that the first was unleashed on China by international from the US. And that this was brought into China through frozen food. Again, remember we spoke about in the start of the story, it's best to freeze these things. They can be freezed, so they stay in stasis until they are activated. A little bit like freezing peas. Everybody, you know, freeze your peas, keep them fresh, and you can use them for a long time thereafter. And so, or by this, during some kind of military exercise during that time, is said to have almost given credence to this with the whitewashing that they did of an investigation. Now, if we go back to this guy in the story here, and there's so much more, this is a big story, but this has been translated. If we go back to this magician here, he has had ties with, right back from 1981, he has had ties with working with and in here and here. What a surprise. I'm going to put that because I don't know how these algorithms work. So yeah, these who love us so much. If you look up Pompeo, and I think I'm spelling his name right. it pronounced you, so I don't know, look it up, you'll find it. Made reference to this in May 2020, so a year ago. And it wasn't really spoken about very, very much. So, okay, oh, that was a quicker way of deleting it all. And so that is the story. The end, folks. Not. Because here we see that there is a huge, this is where it isn't black and white, it is complicated, because the different layers and fractions of the so-called powers that be are doing their bit towards the narrative, but they do have personal gain within it. And so we have the shadowy hidden, which will utilize any country, US, UK, you know, Australia, Russia. They'll utilize anything. They've got no borders, and that goes on and on and on. And then we have the layer that sort of we see the puppets here, who have their own egos, who are allowed to get away with certain things that you know, feed their egos, but are ultimately told what to do. And so we do find ourselves in a very complicated spider web, because maybe this story is telling the truth. Maybe the first firing shots of, you know, these, maybe the first firing shots were, you know, sent through the likes of the puppets here towards China, or maybe they're just lying about that, because basically these kinds of people have been utilizing all this time. So it might be a double cover story, so to speak. So we do find ourselves in a very complicated web. And what I do want to speak about, and I will speak about it on a different video, just in case some people couldn't bear to hang around while I was filling in blanks, is that I want to make note that also universities are a huge thing. That we've got universities then mixed in, unis mixed in at another layer, because these people mentioned in this story have been working and teaching in US unis and in UK unis, and so universities. And so, you know, the web gets even more tangled, because then you have budding scientists who have been taught a certain narrative, as have many doctors, who will then go on to do further studying. No, I don't want to do that. And get more entangled with the likes of these, with the big money. And so it is a very complicated web that we find ourselves in. But we have to remind ourselves that many brave people have maybe done wrong in the name of science, in the name of their profession, and eager to attain, eager to be remembered, you know, for the thing that they love to do within science, who have come forward to say, it's called, what's it called? There's a word for it that's being spoken about, and it's being directed towards Fauci. And basically it means taking one thing that would usually just belong in, let's say, a big scraggy dog. Let's say it would only belong, what kind of dog is that? Lab dog for sure. It would only belong or survive in something like, not even a dog, something more wild. Let's say this is a coyote, vicious coyote. And they would take it, and, you know, there's this thing, there's this particle. Maybe it has like indentations in, you know, and that's how it attaches somehow to the little DNA of the dog, and they magically, like, poof, 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 work with it and change it. There's a term that's being bandied about now, and I've gone and forgotten it, and I didn't want to. And now all of a sudden, oh, like magic, it's able to now have spikes. Oh, you lovely spiky thing, you. Why the hell would any normal person want to mess with this? And all of a sudden, and if we look at things like this, is exactly what happened. And brave scientists have come forward and said, I feel so guilty for the work that I did here, to do this here, to enable this here. And nobody's listening because it is not on. And so it really is for us to dig. It really is for us to listen. Because now what I'm worried about is, and this is what I wanted to come to, is that, like myself and many, many others, we've been talking about the ridiculousness of this kind of thing over the face. We've been speaking about these kinds of things that would cover the eyes. And we've been telling people about the contradictory evidence and the lack of fit for purpose of these things. We've been speaking out against things like this, you know, where we've locked it up. We've been speaking out about people, you know, living their lives, having a hug. Boris is even saying hugs will be legal from Monday, such and such, such and such. Full. Like a hug is an assault now. Not coming hot with these things now, haven't stopped. But the danger is now that even the people who have been very aware, even the people who have been speaking out on these ridiculous things, this is the art, isn't it, of war. And this is, we find ourselves in the potentials, as far as I see too, of the huge threat of this. We see ourselves under this, and it is those goons that we have allowed, the likes of him and his cronies, just this is the most rememberable name. We've allowed them to be playing with this kind of thing and been accepting it for a long time, and it does bring into question just how many illnesses and even needed to be experienced by humans. And I've spoken out about this before, just of having a knowing of this. And the danger is now, and this is the double switch of this kind of thing, is that there is a strong chance that in the future we do need to be being very careful about things that could be sprayed, rained down. And so that's something to be aware of. And once you start seeing those warnings, I would really love for you to take them seriously, because that is the thing, isn't it? They put you in a state of fear, have you in a way that you can't comprehend what is truthful, what is not truthful, what is right, what is wrong, what is contradictory, what does not make any kind of scientific sense at all. And then you're still under that fear and that cognitive dissonance, but you also get complacent. On the other aware and awake side that has been speaking out against this, they are then complacent in a different way. Sometimes they can dig their heels in and see this happening, and I speak out as much as I can and plan to do more on my home turf and homeland. That it's important that we don't let ego come in and not dig our heels in too hard, when actually we do need to start making our own homemade coverings, and do need to be careful of built up areas. The other thing is that this art of war would be to have people in such fear of a negligible thing as far as numbers. Have people on their knees praying. Have a savior come in the squirter. Have a savior come in and actually, through this, have the people offer themselves up on bended knee to have something I have a feeling that this was part of the plan all along. I have a feeling that we're going to see the ramifications. We already are, but we're going to be seeing more of the ramifications of this on all layers. This is so multi-layered. It goes from the unseen spiritual, soul level to ground and underground, to be quite frank. And the ramifications on all of these different levels are huge via this. And this is a trialing of a that through fear people accepted happily in many numbers. So this is, just watch out for this. Leave a comment as to what you find out. Spread the word, let people know, because wouldn't they just love it if the very people, if they didn't just get those that bent the knee in fear, but if the very people that were fighting against this on behalf of themselves and on behalf of others, then weren't careful when they need to be careful. And it's something that we really do have to contemplate. And it would all be so very simple if we didn't have these puppets, these goons that say that they represent us, literally bolstering and supporting and giving safety to the likes of Gates of Hell, the likes of so many others. Because if we didn't have them, can you imagine, with the technology that they have hidden, with the knowings that they have of real science, of real alchemy, our ancient art that was taken away and, you know, kept for the few to know and for the few to learn only certain aspects of it and then still be very controlled by dollar bills. Can you imagine the kind of magic, the kind of alchemy we could be actually creating, the kind of relief Gaia herself would feel, the goddess energy, the kind of healing that we could create. We could course correct so much illness, so much heartache. We could do such brilliant and wonderful things. There would not be hunger. There would not be whatever's at the top filters down. You know this just from doing your own cup. If you've got coffee, it sinks down to the bottom in the presser. It filters down. So even from a spiritual point of view, from a personality point of view, through very few generations, the weeds would be weeded out, even on ground level, to a huge extent. Never to the full extent, I don't think, but to a huge extent. The severity of the duality would not be quite so harsh, would not be quite so apparent. So just spread the word about that. Please share, like, and subscribe, or maybe don't share this one, just spread the word, because it's a bit of a bumbling idiot way to do it. I could only think of this way though and wanted to get it out there. So this is it. So you just let other people know to not be too caught up in the fight that they've put you in, that when you're trying to do good, when it's time to know that it's time to be careful of orifices and skin that's on show. I've swapped that over. I'm sorry if that's been tapping all the way through, because I've gone and swapped it over to the wrong ear, trying to save you from the tapping of the feather. So I hope you can follow that. If not, just let me know in the comments. I'll think of something else. I'll do some drawings and just set them in as a trailer thing. But the word needs to be spread. Look up that book and see what you think. So much love, appreciation, some balance and wholeness, and wisdom, discernment on this and the different strategies that are being played out. Mwah. Love you all.